You don't know everything about me. I've lived a lot of lives.
Welcome back to Disney Marvels for week of July 11th, 2021. This is episode 145. Disney Marvels, the show about Disney, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Muppets, Pixar, 20th Century, the parks, and much, much more. If it has to do with Disney, it's fair game. I'm your host, Matthew Graken. Latest poll out there on the social medias, Facebook group and Twitter, is what is your favorite Walt Disney World nighttime spectacular? And thank you for everyone who voted and put your opinions in there. The choices I put up on Twitter, you can only do 4. So it's a little more limited. Facebook, I was able to put a lot more. There's a difference between the polling, so make sure you check them both out. So you had Wishes, Happily Ever After, Phantasmic, and obviously the obligatory other, because I can't list them all. 50%, I'm going to start off 50%. I already mentioned the 50%. 50% of you, Wishes is your favorite one. That was the one that took the cake. People still love Wishes. And as Matt Merlino and I got into it, it probably has a lot of it to do, and we never really fully got to touch on this, about the music. The music, I think, really is what drives a lot of these nighttime shows. So 50% went to Wishes, 25% said Happily Ever After, and 25% said others. People wrote in Spectral Magic as being ones that they love. And the parades, absolutely, the parades are wonderful. And we really, again, we didn't touch in on the parades. And that could be a whole nother episode in itself. Top Disney World parades, nighttime parades. Well, there's only 2 nighttime parades, but the parades as well. So there you have it, straight from the polls. Thank you again for everyone participating, and make sure to pay attention this weekend for the latest poll out there and putting your votes in. Speaking of polls, for this week's live episode, I'm happy to announce will be a top 5 Loki moments. Everyone wants to talk Loki. We're talking Loki this Saturday Night Live on YouTube, 10 p.m. Eastern. So join in for our top 5 Loki moments. We'll be back after these messages from our friends and sponsors. And now, on with the show. The movie industry is in such disarray at this time. Especially the theaters are hurting. There is a pain that they feel, and we don't know how to fix it. What the theaters need is a hero. And as all good movie studios want to do, is provide a hero. The obvious choice has stepped up and provided the movie theaters this hero. And this could be obviously seen in the box office results for Marvel Studios' Black Widow that made over $230 million. Post-COVID, I'm going to go on a ledge say this is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, post-COVID movie release Granted, this is numbers with international theaters and Disney Plus dollars, but Disney Plus dollars was still about 80 million, I think, or 80,000. But this primarily was in the theaters. Big numbers. Big numbers that we have not seen in theaters in over a year, and the theaters are thankful. And we are thankful for being able to see Black Widow. And we're even more thankful to have Isaac back with us talking about this. The man who knows where to find an old Russian helicopter when you need one. How you doing, Isaac?
I wouldn't say that I know where a Russian helicopter would be found, but sorry about that. That was a horrible Russian accent. But anyway,
All
no,
right, a vest with lots of pockets.
yeah, vest with lots of pockets though. But no, it was good. But yeah, no, Black Widow. It was an interesting film, man. An interesting film, and it's kind of weird that you said movies, because movie theaters. Because honestly, I will come to admit, like I've seen almost, unfortunately, not almost. I have not seen any of the Iron Mans, but that's just my own prejudice. But I have seen every other MCU film in the theaters up till Black Widow, and so I know it's just great. You had that beautiful monologue of people going back to the theaters, and I decided to see this one at home.
I have to admit, so did I. And economically, it actually works out better for me because there's five of us.
Yeah,
So $30 for five people versus $50+ for.
yeah, no, it makes sense, man. It's a cash, but other than that, I'm gonna let you start off. So, what did you think about the film?
I can't say I loved it. I can't say, like some of my good friends, I didn't hate it either. Um, if anyone knows Matt Leonard, personally, they would know why I say this. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. I thought there was a lot more exposition to this movie than most Marvel movies. It wasn't like an Ant-Man where it tried to be, or Guardians where you try to be more humorous.
Mm.
It wasn't like Winter Soldier trying to be more a political thriller. I really, they say they in the official write-up it says that it's a spy thriller, and even that I think at times is kind of maybe a stretch. Um, I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. It does not make my top half of Marvel movies. If that, just to put that out there, I guess a little early, but
Gotcha.
I did enjoy it. I like what they did. I liked learning more about Black Widow. In her, we learn more without learning too much more.
Mm-hmm.
I feel, because you start off thinking one thing where they introduce, and for anyone who hasn't seen it, we're going to go into some details here, obviously, to be able to review the movie properly.
Spoiler warnings.
Yeah, it's just kind of a spoiler warning right there. Where you open up the movie and you see this young girl, and you kind of obviously figure, okay, that's Natasha, that's Black Widow. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember them actually referring to her as Natasha at that point.
I don't remember. I don't think they did.
I don't think they gave either girl a name at that point.
I don't think they really referred to them. They maybe have. I don't think they referred to Natasha as Natasha. But again, I could be wrong. I don't know what this movie wants. So
I'm pretty sure they left it rather ambiguous.
yeah.
You just kind of figure, okay, this is who it's going to become, and then instead, like a good movie, instead of telling you, they showed you the transformation.
Yeah.
And it kind of, the beginning kind of reminded me of the show The Americans.
Yeah.
And the setup and the Russian spies planted in America to sabotage and do stuff. And then okay, so this nerdy guy turns out to be okay, the Red Guardian character that we'll later get more into.
Mhm.
But I like the progression of the story. I liked, anytime I see Marvel characters, I'm happy. I'm down for that. So, but yeah, all in all, I enjoyed it. We'll give our my final uh number rating a little bit later. But yeah, so that's kind of in a summary. Um, I like the action. There wasn't as much action as one would probably expect out of this movie. I felt. I thought at some points the story was rushed. Some character development, I think, was rushed. Um, but I thought the payoff at the end was good, and the post credit scene I thought was what I was hoping for.
All right. Cool.
How about you?
So like I said earlier, in the introduction to this podcast, like I said, I fortunately am a big movie theater. I would love to go out to see these films, and like I mentioned, almost other than the Iron Man films, I have seen almost every MCU film up to date, except for Black Widow, and I chose to stay home. And a part of me is kind of happy I did not see this in movie theaters. And the reason why I kind of said this now, there are a little bit factors that I think that played into my reasoning why I think Black Widow, in my eyes, wasn't it wasn't a bad film, but really maybe wasn't at the level of everything up to this point. I think that I don't know if anybody's paying attention. I think the people that were running DC at the time, Matt, if you remember, I think Bob Iger even mentioned it in his book that the people that run it in the beginning thought that there's no money to be made in having a woman superhero at that time, which
Mm-hmm.
completely a certain Wonder Woman would said otherwise, and then later form Captain Marvel said no, you're wrong
Yeah.
on. Um, so that's one. So I think not releasing it properly within the proper time scale where this movie should have been placed in, I think kind of affected my idea in terms of story the quality because eventually now we eventually know what happened to Natasha Romanoff's ending. We've already seen what happened to it, so I think it kind of affected the placement of the film because we already knew what happened. Another thing,
Yeah, as you said to me, this movie came 6 years too late.
6 years way too late, and I think it affected the quality of it. Now, I think if a person were to sit there and watch this chronologically down the road, I think the movie would probably be a far more better watch down the road than as opposed to it now. And even if we didn't have a pandemic, which again hurt this film as well, I think even the movie where it came out even before the pandemic, I think that I would still have said that this movie came out still way too late just because of its placement due to backseat politics. Another issue I kind of had too. Another I think thing that I think hurt this film in my eyes is, and I don't know if you were thinking this back in the day. We just came through watching a lot of good stuff from Disney Plus. Like a lot of good stuff from Disney
Yeah.
Plus. Had the opportunity to kind of sit with these characters and kind of be able to develop more of that rapport. Not only just the main character that didn't have a lot of time to shine within the films, but the other side characters that you liked. And I feel like within this film, I think it almost felt like maybe Black Widow could have served as more as a series on Disney Plus, because listen, I mean, as much I love Scarlett Johansson, um, she was not in this film. I gotta kind of have to say this fact. This was not her film. This was more. This was more of the side characters, mostly Florence Pugh's character that kind of stole this whole entire film throughout the entire time I was watching it.
And I have a theory on that. I think that was done
No,
purposely.
and I know it's done very purposely too. I know where you're going with that too.
Yeah.
Know why? I think I know why Disney did what they did. And I think it's very obvious. And I think it's completely obvious. But even if even if we can't, both of us are coming to the conclusion. Let's just even say that Black Widow alone was just a standalone film. It wasn't even part of the MCU. Scarlett Johansson just was not in this film at all. Even if it was just its own standalone film, it just felt like everybody else just kind of came in and outshined her in a film that really was kind of supposed to be dedicated to her and her final journey. And just us as fans to give her closure and stuff like that. I thought, to me, just felt like it just felt like a big disservice to the Black Widow character. That this is kind of what they went with. This is what they kind of came up with. Again, I think there were some okay ideas with it, but I just think it really. I think they could have done better for Scarlett Johansson's send off. In my opinion, I just feel like everybody else was just kind of taking over the reins, and just Scarlett was just kind of always in the backseat over everybody else, and that's how I came off looking at this film. Unfortunately, at the end when it's all said and done.
Yeah, it was more Yesenia's. We followed Yesenia, the development of that character, and was better, more stronger written. There was more written about Yesenia, and you found out more about that character. And like I said, we both assume, and I'm just going to come out and say that that's going to be the Black Widow character now moving forward.
Oh yeah,
in the MCU.
Yeah, they had, and I'm sorry to jump in. They had to. And there's a reason why they gave her more of that spotlight. It's just because they had to. They knew that they had to how to balance her out, but we have to set up to the next mantle, because basically this film was more of a her as being black in a weird way becoming this, but it was more of a mantle pass off than anything else. Than actually kind of a movie dedicated to Scarlett Jo's Natasha Romanoff's character, and I again, I understand what they did that, but they could have given, if that was the case, maybe they could have given Florence Pugh's character Yana a Disney Plus series. I don't know why they could have gone that route and just kind of give her the opportunity to build through that. Again, ending credits show that's going to be something different, but I'm not going to reveal that until later on this year.
I think this definitely would have benefited better as a Disney Plus series in hindsight. Mm-hmm. Also, though, at the time that they were making it, Disney Plus hadn't launched yet. They didn't know what they were be getting into. And if you follow the production line, this would have been the first Marvel MCU Disney Plus show. That would have been a huge risk, and I don't know even if they did at that point go with the Disney Plus limited run series, would have it necessarily been done properly, because I don't think they would. All the cogs wouldn't have been in place. We wouldn't have had a Mandalorian to set that high bar that everything else is followed ever since. We WandaVision, some of the quirks and tweaks that people said about that, and that was one of the first shows out. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so you got a bunch of different things like that. So yeah, but in hindsight, if I would have been happier with them to do a production now or started last year, at some point somehow, to release in the next upcoming months a limited run Disney Plus series. Then the film we got, Scarlett Johansson you could feel like, okay, she's already buried this character. End of Endgame, she buried the character,
Yeah,
and she'd kind of,
it almost felt like she was kind of just kind of. I don't want to say she was phoning it in and walking through the motions though, but it just seemed like there was just very little of her in its
the
entirety.
energy wasn't there.
Wow.
The energy that she normally brought into the character, I didn't feel was as there. I mean, she was playing a tired character, but she felt tired herself.
You mean the actress that played it, Scarlett?
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson. Well, but even the character of Black Widow, she's on the run again, and the point where you could see her getting changed, and there's the giant bruise on her back and stuff.
Yeah.
I think some of it. I think some of the stuff that they put the character through was a little excessive, even for her character, being that they're specially trained, but they're not super soldiers.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just kind of have to go with the Fast and Furious model at this point.
That's not a good model.
It's just, I would say the same thing too, but it's just like, you're watching a movie at this point because I mean, listen, there should have been a lot of things that should have killed them both, but like, she falls from a 20-story building and lands, but I mean,
Not only does she fall from a 20-story building, she falls from a 20-story building and hits some stuff on the way down.
Let alone she falls like out of the air. She falls 500 feet from the air from a fallen satellite, but like, like we're not. And still land safely, but like, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that I mean the end conflict was the jumping forward. That was one of my favorite parts was on the satellite and the stuff that was developing and going on there. And the free fall fight was pretty cool, but I didn't like the resolve as much for that reason. And also that the Red Guardian and the quote unquote mother character just randomly show back up.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, just it was. Again, it was trying to build this whole idea of family. They were trying to sell the whole family values that dynamic, and well, even though that the family wasn't real, they were just a bunch of spy operatives. But at the end of the day, they sat down and they really had to build this whole family dynamic. And again, it would have served better if this was a series, because then you had an opportunity to dive into Florence Pugh's character, David Harbour's, Rachel Weisz's character, and how that family dynamics, which would have led to them all coming together to take down the Red Room. Which was a floating satellite and fucking sorry. I don't know who knows that. But
what was that? Yeah, I like the Red Guardian. I was really looking forward to learning, seeing this Red Guardian character, and I thought again he was kind of an afterthought in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had that one touching moment where he is with Yesenia's character, the quote unquote youngest daughter, or Black Widow's sister, and he's talking to her, and they're kind of going through this motion of her rejecting him and then him saying, well, no, that might be how you remembered, but I remember details of things slightly differently, and that, I did care for you, and you started to build something there. But that was like the only point.
Yeah.
Him in the jail doing arm wrestling. Okay, you're starting again a character development of trying to start a character development of him. And he's talking about, I remember fighting Captain America, and then someone points out, wait, what year was this? Oh, 1980. Captain America was still on ice at that point. But I think that maybe does this harken back that there was other Captain Americas that the U.S. Army was tinkering with.
Well, yeah.
That's a storyline they could always explore at some other point.
Yeah, and it kind of would make sense because like a lot of Russian whatever, some like again they had like Russian spies over there. They probably had a couple Black Widows way before Natasha came in. Again, the
Mhm.
series still have Black Widows, so they probably managed to get some intel secrets, be able to develop their own super serum formula, as you could have seen probably as you could have seen through the eyes of the Winter Soldier, which was probably one of the first people they tried to develop, and then probably the formula was later on developed for Russia, which you got in with David Harbour's character, the Red Guardian. So that's probably the more advanced version of that super serum from under Russian guide after what they learned through Winter Soldier and stuff like that. So
Yep.
uh, I'm not again, yeah. So that would have sat down totally made sense. Um, but in terms of performances, what did you think? Okay, let's just go through all certain characters. Let's just start with Florence Pugh. She was the most exciting part of this whole film. Man.
Yeah.
She every time she talked, she was amazing. I love Florence Pugh. I loved when I don't know if anybody's seen it. There was a film called Fighting with My Family when directed by Under the Rock, where she played the WWE wrestler Paige, WWE wrestler Paige,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and she
I
would
know her.
that's my first time seeing her credits. She's done a lot of great stuff. So when I heard that, so when
She was in
these
Little Women.
Little Women, yes, that was also the closest one, and then she was in that horror film that came out a couple of years ago. But
The
missing,
Falling.
no, I think it was missing York. I forgot. It begins with
Marcella.
no. It was like a weird horror indie film by I think A42, but she was in that. It was Missing York or something like that. I think I forgot the name, but either way, it she. I'm glad that DC managed to get young talent like her because Yelena was just great throughout this whole film, especially the part. Oh man, as as especially one cool part throughout this whole entire film, which was great. Um, the part where in the scene where she sits down and I forgot when they were in the wow they were in the convenience store and then Yelena mocks Natasha about her poses that she does. It's just completely insane, completely utterly insane, which is just insane.
She was definitely, I think, the strongest character, Yesenia. She between the actress and, like we said, I don't know what was going on with Scarlett Johansson, but it was I think that kind of plays into the name Black Widow. We find out, okay, we know Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, but she's not the only Black Widow.
Of course,
If
yes.
I'm making sense.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, her performance, you could feel the pain from her of what she's been through, the real the transformation that you see the character going through, realization of how she's gotten out of it and realized what she's done.
Mm.
I think in some ways, how they've built up the Black Widow program in the mind control and the programming,
Yeah.
and now there's this antidote. There's always an antidote, but the thing that
Yeah.
the red luster dust that takes them makes them realize what they've done. In some ways, knowing that now, okay, I could believe that. All right, sure, I could go along with that. Whatever. So then, how did Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow get out of it?
Yeah, that's what a lot of the things that were still not answered, and I guess something that might have to do with Budapest when he was with Clint, maybe back in the day, kind of helped her kind of ease her way back in it. So nobody really understands. Yeah, like again, a lot of plot points that just again, I guess you'll take it or leave it at this point because, and I
Yeah,
don't know She's gonna really be able to explain that now, moving forward. Now that kind of Scarlett's kind of done playing this character, though. But no, I said Florence Pugh was the most fun part about this whole film. Every time she was like, "Oh, dude," she was a person that you love to be around with because everything that she did was fun and quippy and just excited. Anytime she talked, and then you know what's really great because she was able to she was the one out of everybody that really committed to this Russian accent, and I think her voice it really, so that's what makes it fantastic, like to listen to her, and she was fun to listen throughout this whole entire film, which was great. I think David Harbour also kind of just goes around. I think David Harbour was also the next fun thing about this whole film too, and how David and Florence played off of each other was also great. I thought he
Yeah.
was wonderful. I feel, especially in the moment where he goes to console Pugh, and Pugh has was Yelena, and she wants nothing to do with Alexei because Alexei is just, let's be it, he's not the smartest, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. It kind of felt like a Stranger Things moment where he's playing his David Harbour character when he starts singing American Pie to her.
Yes.
It felt
And
very Stranger Things when it's like talking to 11, which I thought was really fantastic about that.
and that's the moment I'm talking about. That whenever, we start building that moment between them,
Yeah,
and I think if we had a few more of those moments, would have been better,
yeah,
because you get a lot of character development between the two of them. That whole dinner scene, that you could tell Yesenia loved being there.
yeah.
That character loved being there, and no one else did.
Hmm. Yeah, you're right.
But she is going back to that childhood that was ripped away from her.
Yeah, in a story sense, which you really do, and to her that's all she wanted, and it's great between her and the little girl actress. She still carried that same energy, which was a
Yeah.
really pick up. You really do notice that she really, to her, it was everything to her. Being in Ohio, being in this whole family situation was everything to her, and that was pulled away from her. And I think that's one of the reasons why you really relate to her, because she was a more excited character to be in this whole situation. She just everything was great for her. Rachel Weisz's character, I think also did a fantastic job in this too. She had her fun little moments. I don't think she was the most impactful character, but I think she found her place within the script, that within the movie at times, which I thought was fine. But great, not the best out of there between that and Scarlett's, but I think she helped move the plot along. I thought
I
throughout.
was okay with the development of that character. Would like to have seen a little more, but
Yeah.
I liked how that character played out, and I liked how that character.
I agree. I wish there was more development. You didn't really see that much was Alexei and Yolanda versus Milena was everybody else. I wish they would have played a little bit more with that.
Yeah, Alexi's the Red Guardian's character was the one that I think I was actually the most disappointed in, because I felt like we really didn't get enough of that character.
I agree. I totally agree. But again, David Harbour, what he had to work with, I thought did a really good job within the short period of time.
Yeah.
To really convince us that, even though he's the klutz father operative and thing, he really does care about these women.
Yes.
Like, even though he doesn't really do a good job of showing it, he's more country over family, but he really does care about them all so much. And for the, again, short period of time, he was able to display that, and I was fun. So to that, I'm fine with how his character went off.
Yeah, I was expecting maybe just, I don't know, in my mind, to have a slightly more big redeeming section for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like I didn't get that. I don't know, maybe my expectations for his character were I don't know, set a little higher for some reason.
Interesting.
But I mean, he was fine. What I got with him was fine. I just wanted more, and I guess in some ways that's a good thing.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
we
think, and what's really great about I feel like with these three characters moving forward is we don't know what happened to them after Endgame.
No.
So they're still out there. They're still. We're clearly going to see Yolanda back. That's a true given.
And sooner than later.
Yeah, very sooner than later. Especially what they do with the. I mean, are we past like we're spoiler? Are we getting spoiler territory?
Well, we said so before. So
Yeah.
I mean, we could she's showing up in Hawkeye. I'll put it out there. We know she's showing up in Hawkeye.
Yeah, she showed up in Hawkeye, which is exactly and spoiler one and under that. But in terms of other parts of the film, yeah, but like and especially what happens after the end of the whole, again the whole room being in the sky and eventually coming down, and now kind of freeing all the other widows. Too, also you also have to consider yourself. There are other widows out there now. There are kind of rogue agents, kind of just hiding in. So what happens to them now? Now that everything's kind of gone a little rogue at this point, that I feel like that's a very interesting situation moving forward into the film. Um, Another character, Ray Winstone's character who played Dreykov. What did you feel about his character in the film? I noticed he didn't care about giving an accent. If you notice, he just like, hey,
He never got into that.
He never really did. He just felt like, he looked like he woke up at 5 minutes before set, and then tried to say, okay, this is what you're going to get, Disney. He's like, you paid me. This is what you're going to get. Then I'm going to just go straight to work, and that was pretty much it. Like, he just didn't give any try this film.
Yeah, tired son of a dog. That's again gonna be a tired son of a dog.
Yeah.
I didn't mind him. I thought he was an interesting adversary. I think a lot more his interest maybe came from the bits that they wrote in. But I didn't mind him. I thought he was right. He's the type of character that he's like, I hope you die, and I hope you die painfully for what you have done.
Yeah.
He kind of there's this weird vein of, and you get it with Lexi's character, the Red Guardian, of the American character versus the Russian character of a summer. So you got the American Captain America, you got the Russian Red Guardian. I felt Ray's character of was the Kingpin.
Yeah.
He was kind of like, to me, he was a king, kind of like the king. Other than Kingpin's not going around mentally brainwashing and creating people and
I agree.
But at the same time, sitting in that giant office, obviously having unlimited financial resources and just kind of that stance, that giant, larger than life, bullish stance that the Kingpin has.
Yeah.
Especially that we got in like Spider-Verse or even in the Daredevil series.
I guess.
But
yeah, I feel like he came off as a weak villain. In my end, I feel like to me, I felt like he was really like a throwaway dude when it's all said and done. So I mean,
it was. I was fine with him. Like I said, more of his menace came from the writing than the acting portrayal.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for certain things that they wrote into the script, you can't attack me because of pheromones. That was, I like, really? That's I would have been happier with some sort of like genetic programming.
Yeah. If it's a pheromone thing, then okay, why didn't Scarlet just stand 10, 15 feet away, then shoot him? Which also didn't make any sense. And on top of that, if we're going to play into the Farno thing, remember, Yelena was also in that same program too, and was very close to Dreykov during that helicopter scene when she decides to blow everything up. So you would assume her being in that proximity should have disabled her and not be able to do what she did by blowing up the helicopter that they were all on, and then fallen. So again, plot point. Again, this is not to nit. Again, if you want to nitpick on it, which the internet probably has already did. There's probably a lot
absolutely.
already. Then go ahead. Uh, but again, I'm not gonna hold that to a stance. However, we all have to need to talk about Taskmaster here at this point.
Yes, let's bring in the Taskmaster.
Let's just get into it, and I'm going to start. First of all, again, I'm not against Jen. Okay, so at the end of the day, Taskmaster in this version was a woman. My issue is not with the gender swap, because you can totally pull it off. My issue is basically they end up pulling another what was that character in Iron? Unless it was an Iron Man 2 that everybody was very upset with, the Mandarin. They pulled the Mandarin. They pulled another Mandarin in this, in terms of the fact that that they poorly retconned this character, in the fact that this character was basically just a plot point, just a human plot point to be moved around, an obstacle that just needed to be placed. There was no life, no emotional, there was no real emotional life or attachment or any quippiness. Because again, I'm not one of those people to be one of those comic book characters that would go all crazy and whiny about the situation, because I understand movies are different. But you also have to remember Taskmaster's kind of Deadpool-like in terms of that he's very quippy, he's a smart ass, he loves his job, he loves to be a mercenary, and he loves to do the things he do, and he has a great wit and a great personality to him, to the fact that you did not get any of this through Taskmaster, which I think was very upsetting to the point that it was nothing but a drone character that just kind of sat down and watched it and was just computer programmed into it. I think that bothered me the most about knowing who this Taskmaster is. And on top of that, it's also a little sadly disappointing that the actress that played Olga Kurylenko has had some IMDb stats. She's not unknown. She was in the Quantum of Solace. She was in she was in Quantum of Solace. She was in Hitman. She was in Tom Cruise's Oblivion. So she's very well known as an actress herself. She's not probably big, but she's had some pretty impressive credit in her own right. So the fact that she sat there to be a mindless drone, to me, was a very interesting choice.
Yeah.
In its own right. So I just think this was a very poorly mishap. They end up pulling a Mandarin again, and I think that's not cool on Disney's part to do that. Now, I guess they're gonna, just like with the Black Widow title, they're probably gonna, Disney's gonna probably recorrect themselves probably 3 movies down the road, and they're probably gonna get the real Taskmaster that everybody wants. But to kind of pull this nonsense again, I think that's not really fair to the comic book fans and then to the MCU fans at all. I think they robbed a really cool character that could have done much more of the scene stealing than even Yolanda's character did throughout this whole entire film. So that's my take on Taskmaster at that point.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with the Taskmaster character.
He's a bad. Listen, I'm sorry, I'm just jumping. He's such a badass. Like, his character, like, he does the photographic memory, like, as shown. Like, he can really, he picks up everybody's moves very, very quickly, to a point that he mimics it to pure perfection, on top of every martial arts stuff that he learns on his back end. But again, he's a very quippy dude that just loves his job of being a mercenary, and he just didn't get that in that film.
No, he was more of a threatening. Like, how it was introduced, where you just see first he's studying film. for some reason that we haven't exactly figured out, is watching uh, Hawkeye and Black Widow
Mhm.
fighting. We don't know why, but that's what he's watching.
No,
And he's
how,
watching film.
how they got that footage, who knows? But
It's security footage from the airport during Civil War.
okay, that makes sense.
I'm good. I'll just assume that because I couldn't explain otherwise either.
Yeah.
So that's that he's watching that for. We don't know why, because Scarlett Johansson character is not in that part, isn't involved in that storyline yet. Unless if somehow they had some sort of information already that no one else had, that the serum was getting sent to Black Widow from to Natasha from Yesenia, Yelena. But yeah, so that was kind of bizarre. Yeah, that first initial battle between them I thought was great. And you don't see Taskmaster for a while. It just shows up, pops up here and there. Is
Yeah.
this menace? But again, another I felt underdeveloped character. And
Yeah.
okay, it's the daughter. I didn't mind the gender swap thing. You did it in Ant-Man and the Wasp with Ghost. I don't have a problem with changing the origin slightly, changing the character around a bit, just to for whatever reason, just to kind of it works better for this. That's fine. That part was fine with me, but it wasn't. He was more of, or she was more of a definitely a side character, or even more of a background character, just a menace to because we needed that since our main bad guy really isn't going to be much of a threat other than financially.
Yeah. And pheromones.
Yeah, because he smells good.
Yeah. So I just yeah, it's just again just a poor opportunity with that character, and any comic book fan that has a gripe with this, they have every right to be. It's just you really miss the opportunity to kind of have a fantastic character on the screen. Not only that, a character that could also pop up in other films just to cause havoc. You miss that. Again, they're probably going to retcon. They're probably going to refix this, and we'll get the real Taskmaster maybe down the road, maybe either through a series or something like that. But yeah, I think that was just a tough take, I think, overall. But yeah, I don't know what else to talk about this film. It's just I think this again. I think overall, at the end of the day, I just think this was a film that came out 6 years too late. I think due to the pandemic and due to what Disney Plus has done so incredibly well, which I want to bring in something. I was thinking about this too. I don't know, and I might just be kind of just over. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. Do you feel that maybe Disney Plus has done maybe way too of a good job with their series? And I say that because, like, not only do you kind of get the time, not only are you emotionally getting time to see these characters build, especially within Loki, you're really getting a character destructure. You're getting a really character examination, or they're tearing the character down and rebuilding them up to a new version. But you're also getting the same money quality too. The same kind of money that they're pumping into these films, they're pumping into these smaller television series, and you're getting the same exact quality, to the point where I feel like a film like Black Widow, I'm just sitting there watching it, and I'm thinking back to myself, like, the Disney Plus shows feel so much better than this. I just don't. And I'm sitting here. You're paying 30. You're basically paying $30
you're paying $30 just for a 2-hour film, where I'm paying $7 and I'm getting these mini stories that are just almost like 6-hour film altogether. What's your thought about that? I was thinking that and thinking to myself, like, maybe these Disney Plus shows are way too good that it could start undermining the films moving forward.
Isaac, this just goes to show you how good of friends we are, because I was about to ask you the same exact question.
Oh, God.
Because I was just thinking, what is the Disney Plus limited series that Marvel is giving us undermining the movie production? And I was just thinking, would we be thinking of this movie somewhat differently if we got this movie when we were supposed to last May, before we saw WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, Loki, and maybe not necessarily. I mean, the film is what the film is. This film has been done, booked, edited, sealed, signed, delivered for over a year now. For a year and a half, let's say. So the film would never have changed, but would have our perspective of the film and our expectation of the film been different than it is now after seeing WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, and taking all that stuff in? I'm gonna say yes, which makes me worried for what's coming. Not so much Shang-Chi, because Shang-Chi they just produced it, and it's going to follow more in the veins of everything. My expectations for Shang-Chi are a lot more solid than what comes after Shang-Chi, which is Eternals, which is another movie that's been done now for 2 years.
Yeah.
And we've been sitting around waiting for. And frankly, the trailers hasn't enticed me yet. No, it was a quick teaser.
Yeah.
It was a quick teaser. So I am setting my expectations low for Eternals and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
If that, in all fairness, in full disclosure, where Black Widow, I think maybe my expectations might have been too high. For me personally. And was probably pushed even higher with, like you said, the stuff that we've been getting from Disney Plus. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Disney Plus stuff, like you said, we've gotten to really develop characters and learn characters, and we still get the action, we still get the production value, we still get the stars and the acting talent that you would get in a movie, or anything else bigger budget. We're getting on these 6-hour stories. Some are going to be longer, but right now we've gone 6 hours versus 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I think we might have enjoyed the movie more.
Mhm.
Again, not saying that I hated the movie. I know I still have yet to give my final review. But yeah, I think so. I think
It almost feels like now Disney could start being almost a victim of their own success at this point moving forward.
yes.
Because again, like you said, you have to continue to match that money financially. You have to continue to match that quality. Like, you can't go back, because then you're going to undermine the whole product moving forward. You can't take a step back on those television shows, because people are going to see that, and that could hurt Disney Plus moving forward, just to please things in the films. And this is kind of another reason, especially when you have an opportunity to see the Loki season finale. But they're in a really weird predicament right now, and like you said, even you speaking to what you say, the next two films, Shang-Chi, I don't think Shang-Chi is really going to be affected by this. I think Shang-Chi is kind of its own unique thing, so that it has that. But then you also look into the Eternals. You feel like the Eternals might have to play into a big key role of the next phase in some form. You just don't introduce the Eternals if they're not going to play into a key form. And definitely, and I guess we'll have to take a wait and see approach to the Spider-Man film. But yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. Disney's kind of put themselves in a weird corner now moving forward with their whole production and how everything fits.
Yeah, it's to quote you, it's we have been spoiled.
Yeah.
Why I'm not as worried about the productions that are just happening and are moving forward versus then Eternals and Black Widow respectively that were done years ago at this point. We've been promised. Now, hopefully, and Feige's been fairly good in holding up to his promises. We've been promised stuff that what's happening on the Disney Plus series will play into the movies, and the movies play into Disney Plus. They will all be married in storyline arc. Will all play out through each other. If that truly is the case, I'm not as worried about what movies that we have coming up. If that doesn't turn out to be the case, then yes, they will start deconstructing themselves. So, fingers crossed that, as promised, things will keep moving forward and everything plays into each other. Black Widow is playing into Hawkeye.
Yes.
But not enough. Well, not only did they play into Hawkeye, they played into Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Because we had Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character. Which I said at that point, when we were talking Falcon and Winter Soldier, that we were going to see this character at some point. And we did. And it played out better than I was expecting. So that was my absolute kind of key concrete okay, here's the payoff. These 3 minutes, that's what I wanted.
Quick question with that. Was Julia Dreyfus' character coming back into the fold? Would you have been more excited if you had saw Black Widow first versus Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier, or make an appearance, or it still was interesting reveal?
I think maybe I was a little more confused, or I don't know. That's a good question. Because I would not have expected it. Like now, I was expecting it. I wouldn't have expected it if I saw Black Widow first, and
then be more excited if your character popped up on Disney Plus. Then it's like, oh wow, then okay, yeah, these are really good. These are connected, but no.
Yeah, it kind of a neutral thing, but I think it if the master plan played out the way that the master plan should have played out, and we got Black Widow a year ago, I think, and then when she showed up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think that would have made it a slightly more impactful play than what we got in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where we going, who? Wait, what? Why is Elaine here?
Yeah.
She saw the bad dancing and said, I'm in on this?
Yeah.
I think that would have played out better in that aspect, but it still plays out well. Yeah. I still like this mystery woman character that she is playing. We don't know her agenda. We don't know what, what's her end game, where she's trying to lead, what we don't know anything about this character other than we know the name. But even in the comic books, this character has been all over the place.
No, you're right. Yeah, she's yeah.
So, that's kind of like saying, I think the future is bright.
Yes.
I think we're just going through some growing spurts and some tough times at the moment. But again, now talking 24 movies,
Yeah.
we're not gonna love them all. All in all, production wise, it's a strong movie. I think a lot of studios would love to have a movie of this caliber. In some ways, it reminds me more of them trying to do a Jason Bourne movie,
Exactly.
just with the wrong characters.
Yeah. I was thinking that. I was thinking that.
Especially whenever you get the Black Widows all over the place. There's Black Widows everywhere. Just again, the Jason Bourne characters is that there's those Bourne agents everywhere. Yeah. We've only seen 2, and here we've seen 3. Well, no, we've seen a handful more than that, but because you had all the other ones that were practicing and show up at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. It's yeah. I'll actually disagree. I don't think it was the wrong character to use. I think maybe they should have done maybe a better story. Maybe they could have done a better story angle than maybe with this. Maybe there could have been a better adventure that could have led to the taking down of the Red Room than this. I don't know. I just feel like maybe the execution of all of this maybe just didn't flow the way that I hope. Again, it just goes back to just Scarlett just disappearing in her own film and just everybody just hogging up the spotlight on her and on top of everything else. Because I think the Red Room is a very interesting theory.
I loved learning about that, and I thought, yeah, especially they did not shy away from some of the gritty details of what they did to those girls.
Yeah, no, they really go into detail. In the best Disney sense, they really do. Even that even something I should probably even the intro that was just creepy and very very Russian like with the Nevada song playing in the background. I thought that was
that was great. That was brilliant. That and again, I think that set up. I pushed my expectations a little further than I needed. In all honesty, I was expecting a very gritty and dark movie, and I did not fully get that. And I think
you got a safe Disney version of dark and gritty.
I think also they did themselves a disservice because I don't think the discussion was fully had at this point that should Marvel do an R-rated movie? Yeah. And Feige is now, he's come out firmly to say, I have no problem doing an R-rated movie. Deadpool 3, let's go.
It seems like Disney does. It seems like Disney does.
That's always a possibility. But would this movie have played out even better if you'd lifted the MMPA restrictions of it's a PG-13 movie and we cannot go beyond that? Because you could see at times that, especially some of those fight scenes, they had to pull back because they would have pushed that rating level and it would just gotten too gritty. Yeah. And I think that's where this movie needed to go. It needed to get darker and it needed to get grittier. And would have played out, I think, so much better if it had.
Yeah. I agree.
And since we couldn't get that, it just kept tripping over itself.
In a way, I could see a little grittiness. Again, I think even if you were to even say, even I feel like if a movie were to get a rated R-rated, I think it's still,
I still think you still have the issues just Scarlett not being in her film enough, and a lot of these actors still kind of taking over the spotlight over her. I think that would just you would still have that again. I think we both agree that there was a reason why they
Yeah.
did the way they did it, though. But again, I think overall, I think again, like I said, if this movie had came back and been put in the timeline as it should have been, I think the film would, in my opinion, would have been a lot more of a better film because it fits within the timeline in the case. But then going back to what you said when we were off, I could understand, but in the same way, you probably wouldn't. The cast would probably have been a lot more different if they did this 6 years ago. You probably would not have the cast that you have right now.
Yeah.
But which again, it's like would we again that would have been the trade off. You wouldn't have Florence. Florence Pugh would never been in the position to play her character, or David Harbour, or Rachel Weisz, or Ray Winstone. But I think in terms of just a flow, you would have just made. I think the movie would have been a better. Again, I think this movie would probably looked a lot better, maybe 10 or 20 years down the road when you eventually, like, if you show this to your kids and you decide to watch the movies chronically wise, like you go through chronically, I think would make. I think the movie in time would probably be a far better movie. But as of now, just with everything that's happened in it, I think this movie just got hurt with everything else that's come before it, the pandemic, Disney Plus has just kind of hurt this film. And so, in terms of my rating, I think I'll just kind of put this movie in a realm of a 6, 7.
Right.
If we're gonna do time rating, I think it's just
I'm 10.
not a bad film. I think it's just a decent film on its own part, but it's not anything really great. I think it's just a movie that just 6 years too late.
So you're going like what, 6.5, shall we say?
Oh yeah, 6.5. I'll keep it. If we're going by a 10 scale, I'll keep like a 6.5.
Okay. I'm going to give it I'm giving it a 5. I right average. Wasn't, like I said, didn't hate it. It's not below average at all. It's just right down the middle.
Hmm.
Which is probably one of the lowest scores I've given a Marvel movie, but it's not my least favorite Marvel movie. That there's still a special mantle for a particular Marvel movie that I've mentioned before. That is my least favorite. Let me pose two questions to you.
Yeah.
2 questions to you. I'll also bring up. I brought up the. Well, actually, let me stumbling over myself here. So we just gave our ratings, which we both give it an average. IMDb. Its current score is a 7 out of 10. So close to where you're at.
Yeah.
Rotten Tomato is on the tomato meter 80%.
Yeah.
So that's above us. The audience score out of 5,000 plus verified ratings, 92%. So we are in the minority of our thoughts. Most people in general are loving this movie, and I don't fault them. I'm not going to argue with them. I support them because I want to be there. The movie just not bring me there. And here's one of my questions. Is that because we had to wait the extra year and 2 months for this movie that kind of maybe our expectations kind of unintentionally grew? Because the longer you wait for something and expect something, your expectations sometimes grow. Like if someone told you you're going to get a really big present for your birthday, if they tell you this a week before your birthday, okay, you get excited and everything like that, but you don't have that as long of a time period as say if someone told you 6 months ahead of time that you're going to get a really big present. And that, in that 6 months, you have time to think, oh, it could be this. Oh, it could be this. You have that time to build unachievable expectations versus if you had only a week, you get excited. Your mind kind of spins and whirls. You have a couple ideas of what it could be, but you don't have that time to fester expectations that, inevitably something may not live up to, or it could exceed.
Here's my. I know where you're going. I think here's the problem with Black Widow 2 that also suffered because this was a movie that was set in the past. Because again, we already knew the fate of Natasha Romanoff in Endgame, where she sacrifices herself. It would be hard to really get now invested into Scarlett Johansson's character at that point because we already knew what happened. So anything really happened in this film was not sequential. It was just
there was no sense of peril.
There's no sense of peril, but there's no sense of there's no sense of peril because again, in the back of your mind, you know how her character ends. This was just more of a closure of anything. So nothing really big, unfortunately, with this film kind of moves forward. Only in the fact that, like we've said throughout this entire broadcast, this was just to set up for other characters moving forward. She was just kind of in the background, setting up of all these other characters that we're eventually may see down the road. So to that, the fact, if anything, this movie, my interest in this movie really kind of went down. More, I was going to go see it because it was an MCU film, and it was one of the films I was looking forward to, and I love Scarlett Johansson, and I wanted, as fans, you just want to give her respect. So this is her finally a film to shine. But it was just a missed opportunity to not release that film 6 years ago. I think if anything, I think going into the movie now already, I was already kind of down on it because again of everything we went. It's just the pandemic and Disney Plus just only hurt this film even more because of just the rise of quality, and the pandemic didn't help. So my expectations were kind of in the middle in this film, and it exactly ended where it needed to be. It's in the middle. So
yeah. My other thing I wanted to play, since What If is right around the corner, we're under a month away from it. What if, Isaac? What if instead of Scarlett Johansson's, Natasha Romanoff's Black Widow being the main character that we're following in this movie, who goes through this mission, this adventure, what if it was Clint Barks' Hawkeye that is running this and gets involved in this situation?
I think that's what you're trying to refer to in terms of was that what you're trying to refer to in terms of that's the character that should have maybe been in the movie for Black Widow? Was that?
Well, when you were talking that we had a different Avenger.
Okay, yeah, that's what you said. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, going back to what you're saying, if we had a different Avenger running this movie, if it wasn't the Black Widow, it wasn't the Natasha Romanoff Black Widow movie, you could even cat the Black Widow name.
Yeah,
but if we interchanged Natasha Romanoff with Clint,
would have been a better film. I
think not necessarily. Obviously the story would have changed, and parts would have happened the same. But it just in general, you had Clint's character, and we saw things through Clint's eyes, and him going back to Budapest. Because we had mentions about, okay, well, those aren't bullet holes, those are arrow holes. And we started to get a little more about that Budapest thing, but again, still no information on that.
Yeah, none.
And he meets the new Black Widow, and he has to go and he finds out about the Red Room, and he's the one that has to go stop it. How would have that played out?
I think that would not even be great because here's the thing. I love Hawkeye though, but if Hawkeye was put in a position to take down the Red Room, then we both would be sitting there and saying, why isn't Natasha Romanoff not taking down her own Red Room?
True. Because she's dead.
You'd just be sitting there, well, that doesn't make, then you'd be looking at Disney and being like, what are you guys, stupid? Like, that's not.
Well, no, because then you could have actually had this movie take place now instead of taking place in the past.
Yeah, but this had to be Natasha's story. Like
Yeah,
that's her whole reason of coming back. Well, not even really coming back. She's running away. It's just her fake sister throws her back into it. It's her younger sister that throws her back into it. If her younger sister didn't reach out to her, she would have. If you think about it, she would have nothing to do with the Red Room. If you really think about it, she would just
right.
to duck and stay cover. It's just her sister ended up finding her, and she ends up going to Budapest to find her. That was the only reason. Yeah, so yeah, even that, yeah. So even if you're really gonna go that would even heck would even make any more sense because again, not only that, Clint has no attachment to that Red Room whatsoever.
No, yeah.
Yeah, so
Well, just vicariously through his best friend, but
yeah,
no.
there
Just
would be no sense of attachment. Now, if you had told me if Hawkeye was in this film with Natasha, I think that would have been fine. I think to kind of because those are the two characters that throughout the whole series was kind of misused. It really wasn't a lot. I know that Jeremy Renner complained enough to be put in more screen time and through that though. But I think if they put those two together in their own film, I thought that would have been totally fine. And again, you're gonna get more of Clint moving forward into the Hawkeye television series, which I think is going to be far more better because again, you're going to have more time to spend with that character and his growing pains and all the actions that he committed throughout during Endgame and all that stuff. So.
yeah, I'm looking forward to the Hawkeye series, and maybe that would also help boost some of the stuff that we've seen in the characters, how much we appreciate some of these characters from Black Widow. Though I'm only thinking the one is going to show up. We're not going to see the Red Guardian for a while, if ever. Melina, right? I think that's her name.
Yeah.
We're not seeing that character again for either a while or even at all.
Yeah.
I think Goliath. We have yet to see that character come back from Sir Lawrence Fishburne's character from Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now maybe he shows up in the third one. Maybe he doesn't.
I forgot that Lawrence Fishburne is in the MCU.
Huh?
I forgot that Lawrence Fishburne was in an MCU film. Wow, that's so far. That shows you.
Yeah. Well, even though it's not that long ago, so much has happened.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, wow.
That was only 3 movies ago.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Wow, how time flies, man. Shit.
Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, that's my exit take. I guess before we wrap up, I think we do this for only television shows. Do you want to do like a most valuable actor or actress in a film? I think we for this.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Just because I enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
And I would be. I'll let you go first, but I'd be amiss if I didn't mention somebody. But go right ahead. Go right ahead.
It's Florence. Come on, it's Elena. It's Elena. It's the one that you want to be. If we were going to do what's that game? I mean, maybe I shouldn't. The whole Mary blank. If we want Scarlett's
Mary,
the one.
friend, and farewell.
Farewell, yes. Mary, Scarlett's the one that Natasha's the one that you want to marry, but Florence the one that you want to have fun with, and she's a character that she was just fun throughout this entire film. She just just the energy she gives to that character is just incredible ball of fire, man, and I'm excited to see her character moving forward into the MCU. I think that's just she's fun. She's just fun. And she's wonderful.
Not to repeat myself, I absolutely Descendant's character. She's exciting. She's new. She is. I liked what the actress and the character both brought to this film, and the expectations that they carry along with them, and the bright future that, again, I think shines ahead of us, that they will be a part of, hopefully for a long, long time. So I'm gonna go with Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
What a swerve, man.
Because again, but along the same vein. I mean, we only saw it for a few moments, but that expectation and kind of twist of the unknown that character now really brings, because you get a little more reaction. It's so weird because okay, you get from a 6-hour series where she got maybe 10 minutes to this, which is 3 minutes, but it felt like there was just so much more.
Yeah.
There was so much more meat to this scene, and you really have no idea. Like we said, you don't know what her agenda is. You know, where she's gathering these characters, and what is her plan with them? Where she's taking them? What is
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're not necessarily the shiny, bright example characters. Not that Tony Stark was a shiny, bright example whenever Nick Fury gathered him. But you could tell what direction he was mentally heading in.
Yeah. I think what's really interesting about her character, too, is that, because we don't know who she's working for. Maybe she's working for herself. But you do really sense in this next phase of the MCU, because the Avengers were a team that didn't like to play by the rules. They didn't want to work with anybody. They were together themselves. So it seems like moving forward that these governments are going to, you know what, based on everything that's happened between Thanos, between the invasion of New York, between all these superheroes coming in, it just logically makes sense that these governments moving forward are going to want their own super teams. And maybe maybe she is going to be a big player in assembling these super teams for governments that she could sell to the highest bidder, aka Dark Avengers, which everybody's pumping up. The Dark Avengers could be moving forward. We could probably see an Alpha Flight team, Canada's team. We could see Excalibur in Britain pretty much moving forward. Again, it makes a lot of sense. Even U.S. agent, it seems like, but for this, it seems like this is our Thunderbolts, where they work with Ross, with Thunderbolt Ross and stuff like that, which honestly makes sense, because a lot of it's like, these guys are broken. These are broken villains, pretty much set to kind of do some horrible things. So it only makes sense moving forward, especially the craziness that we should expect, that all these governments would want to start building their own form of Avengers, because the Avengers are not going to play. And at the moment, the Avengers don't exist. If you really think, the Avengers don't exist at this moment. So everything's in disarray right now. So it's going to be very interesting by the time we finally get to an Avengers. This new formerly Avengers team is going to have to deal with a lot, not only with outside threats, dealing with time and space, but internal threats from other governments that don't want to play against the Avengers. It's going to be very interesting to see where this MCU universe moves forward.
Absolutely. And let me take it in a different direction. Now, we had Nick Fury assembling the original Avenger team. He worked for S.H.I.E.L.D., a U.S. government agent. So there's an overseeing government body to that, which inevitably led to Civil War and the destruction of the Avengers and that whole thing, because people wanted to control them. She does, Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character, Madam Hydra, I believe it is, right?
Yeah.
Does not, as far as we know now, does not play for a government. She is assembling these groups of characters, because you can't call them heroes, because U.S. Agent, from where we left with the U.S. Agent character, he's not a hero. You'd like to be a hero.
They're all anti, yeah.
Yeah, he's anti-hero. The new Black Widow, very anti-hero.
They'll stay in line. That's
yeah.
The thing.
They'll stay in line. They're not villains. They're not, like I said, the super shiny examples of like the original Captain America, and what Thor became and stuff. But so we're assembling a new group that has no government attachment to now become our next team. I shy away from calling them Avengers yet, but our next team, our next collaborative team. So this way, we've now eliminated the loophole of falling under the same thing of we had a problem with having government involved last time. So if we remove the government element and we have this independent group, we can move the story forward without kind of possibly running into the same traps. Like, well, how is this group getting away with what the original Avengers couldn't do? So this is how you avoid the Sokovia Accord loophole. So that's where I'm thinking possibly that this could be heading. Again, or she just coming up, creating these guys that will be like the Apocalypse's Dark Horseman.
Yeah. Who knows, man?
Who knows? And I think that's why I say she was the most variable character, because she's now setting up this unknown possibility.
Oh.
We don't know, and I think that's what gets me so excited, that we really at this point have no clue where we're heading. We know some of the movies, people have assumed who the next bad is, but we don't know.
No, we don't.
And I love it.
No, it's good. It's good. Again, it's very, very good of how they're setting everything up, though. But again, it's something to keep cautious of. But,
absolutely, yeah. Always. Isaac, thank you so much for coming on, discussing this film. We definitely need to hear from everybody else about what their take on this latest Marvel Cinematic Universe, because obviously we're in the minority.
Yes.
And I want to hear from the majority.
Is there a comment section where fans can kind of type in their own opinions and stuff like that?
The Facebook group is the best place. We're both very active on facebook.com/group/Disney Marvels podcast. Please come on there and let us know. Put in the comments, make your own post, whatever you please. Just keep it family friendly, please. That's all I ask. But yeah, I definitely want to hear from people.
I really do.
Love it, hate it, please.
Yes. No, totally. Definitely want to hear everybody's opinions on this.
Yeah. Or you put a TikTok and link us to that. We're all over the place, but most interactive obviously still is the Facebook and the Book of Fakes. Get us on there, and we'll always look forward to interacting with you, the listener, because that's the beauty of this. It's not just us, it's everybody. And on that note, we'll see you soon. Thank you again, Isaac.
Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Again, thank you to Isaac for joining us talking about Black Widow. As we just mentioned, find us on the social, and please, we really, especially this one, join in the conversation. Our main Facebook group, as I said, is facebook.com/groups/Disney Marvels podcast. Let's keep the conversation going on there, because there's a lot that we want to talk about on this movie. Also find us on Instagram at Disney Marvels Podcast, TikTok at Disney Marvels Podcast, and on the Twitter at Disney Marvels. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and join us every Saturday night for our live episodes. Saturday Night Lives, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can do the math for your own region, please. Have a lot of fun going on there. And if you miss it, I do put the audio feed on the streaming services, so you can pick it up there. You can always watch it later too, but nothing like being involved live and joining in on the discussion, talking one-on-one. You can also leave a voice message through the Anchor app or website or on your smart device, your electronic device, and email it. Or any suggestions or questions that you have, email to disneymarvels@gmail.com. Hey, I'd love to answer some of your questions or hear you. I want to hear you on the episodes as well. Don't forget also to check out the latest Disney Marvels blog on disneymarvels.blogspot.com. Links to all these are in the show notes. I want to thank you for your time. You know how crazy, it's the summer, everyone's going crazy, unless if you're in the southern hemisphere, then it's the winter time. I'm sure things are crazy there too. Everyone's busy nowadays, trying to get back to regular life, still not ready to get back to regular life. So much going on. The fact that you take some of that time out and listen to us, maybe you're listening to us in the car while you're driving to work, doing yard work, before going to bed, our dulcet tones help you fall asleep. Whatever it is, the fact that we get to spend time together really means a lot. I really, really, truly do appreciate it. And again, please go on to Apple Podcast, rate, review the show. We have all 5-star reviews at the moment. I again, over the moon about it. Keep them coming. Keep them coming, because the more reviews that we get on Apple Podcast, they will do their bit and promote the show. And it helps the family grow. It helps the Disney Marvel community grow. And it just, the bigger we get, the better things will be. Things are great now. Just think of where we can go. Don't forget also to subscribe to the show while you're out there. This way, like this episode, if things come out a little late, you will know, you'll be notified right away when new episodes are posted. Also consider becoming a premium subscriber. Help the show out, keep the lights on, keep these movie reviews coming. And you can do this over at anchor.fm/DisneyMarvel/support, or even find our Patreon page where you get some free stuff. And like I said in the past, those special bonus episodes will be coming to Patreon, so look for them soon there. You can also check out our merchandise shop and get yourself some fun Disney Marvel podcast stuff. From pillows to mugs to shirts, hoodies, lots of fun stuff over there. Check that out. Get yourself some stuff. Get yourself some new summer attire. Get yourself some back to school attire. I know, those dreaded words. You can find these links all in the show notes as well, because remember, this show is truly brought to you by the listeners like you. Whatever you're facing out there, whatever troubles, darknesses surround you, don't ever give up. Don't ever give in. You are special. You are wonderful. People like you for you. Don't try to be someone else. If things do seem too complicated, it's okay to ask for help, because people want to help you. Don't ever give up on yourself. Find that light inside of you. Grab it, embrace it, and let it shine to show the world how amazing you are. Be your own hero. Never give up. Never get in. Now I'd like to end this week's show with a quote from Walt Disney himself. Many times recently we have been asked this question: what is the difference in technique between TV and motion picture production at the Walt Disney Studios? The answer to that, except in the theatrical use of cinescope, there is no appreciable difference. We go through the same motions. There are just many more of them when you produce for the two media. Again, that's Walt Disney. Thank you again for listening, everybody, and I'll see you next time.